loud enough?
There's a lot of stuff.
Barely? Louder.
Oh, kids like
Going up.
Actually, it's good for them because it builds up their immune system.
Yeah.
What's that?
Now they're gonna catch
Being
that.
on the day.
This morning,
Kids getting ready. Good morning.
My grandma said you had to eat a pound of ham before you died.
Okay, everybody.
The word today is gather. I heard it uh-oh in the back. What does that mean? To gather. To bring together into one group from scattered places. To congregate. God gathers, transforms, and sends us, and we are invited to join into that work. Today we'll talk about how we gather at St. Mark's in a very intentional way. We will share tips and tools, and be ready, we're going to do a little bit of practice, okay? That means role playing sometimes. All right. There is a place for everyone in this process of gather at St. Mark's and in life. Before we go on, however, let us gather with a prayer, and Paul Settle will be sharing it with us.
Good morning, everybody. Why don't we go ahead and bow our head for just a few minutes. Thank you, Lord, for creating this opportunity to gather so that we can learn more about Christian hospitality. As we learn more about the activities of inviting, greeting, orienting, and incorporating, let us be open to new ideas and ways to explore the welcoming tradition of God's faith. In His name, amen.
Thank you. All right, so Paul just told us the 4 words. We should title today a workshop of words. We've got gather, we have transform, and we have send. Always going on and on. We have those words invite, greet, orient, incorporate. We're going to talk about all of these words today. So today is the 3rd Sunday of the month, and you know that I'm not Dean Paul. So why am I here? Huh? Because he's up at the confirmation retreat with the youth of St. Mark's, and thanks be to God for him. He's lucky us, and they're lucky us to have him with them. We have a parent of one of those children in the room right now. So, and I'm also here because I was part of the team that went to the College for Congregational Development, CCD, because we like abbreviations, in Chicago this summer. That's a 2-year program. I think you've been reading and hearing a little bit about that. So this past summer, and then again this upcoming summer, where we're learning methods to aid St. Mark's in growing and transforming into a more healthy, faithful, and effective community. The other reason I'm up here is because my role at St. Mark's encompasses all of those areas of gathering. Invite, greet, orient, incorporate. Joining me today in the presentation is John Satterberg and Lois Satterberg, longtime members of the new member team, and thank you for that, and also Paul Settle, who led us in prayer already, who is our newest member of the council in charge of the welcoming commission. So we're blessed to have all of you all with us here today. So gather, today's topic, is a primary task of any congregation. Gather. Those people called by God, coming together into Christ's body. Once gathered, we're offered many and various opportunities for transformation. And then we're sent into the world to share God's loving presence, ever that continual cycle. This is one of the models from the CCD, the College for Congregational Development, Gather, Transform, Send, that nurtures us as disciples. Disciples, you've heard this one, disciples in the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement. So says our presiding Bishop Curry. Okay, disciples, yay, all right. Kind of like that word, evangelists. Okay, like I said, this is a day with lots of words. All right, who here thinks they're a disciple? We've got a couple. Oh, there, a few more. How about evangelist? Who thinks they are an evangelist? Okay. Well, then we're going focus on some of that. All right. So the work that we do in the category of gather is very intentional and is the work of the whole community. We'll hear more today. Again, we're talking about gather. We'll hear more about transform and send in the future. You've been hearing a little bit about send with our community engagement opportunities. All right. First step today, invite. Okay. Jesus has given us our marching orders. Go and make disciples of all nations. Go and proclaim the good news. Active verbs, giving us an order to move into action, to invite other people to share in this beautiful love that we have with Jesus. Our baptismal covenant also contains an invitation to sharing. And what is that? Anybody? Will you proclaim by word and example the good news? I wonder if sometimes it's easier to proclaim by example than by word. Yes? Perhaps? Okay. Invite. This first part of the process of gather may be the most difficult for many of us, but it doesn't need to be. Jesus' followers were also probably afraid to talk to their neighbors the first time. But aren't we glad that they did? All right, so invite. When we're outside of the church doors, out in the larger community, try it. Share your joy. Share your excitement about St. Mark's, about Jesus. Much like you might talk about a wonderful restaurant or a new book or a new movie you've just seen, tell a friend or a stranger about St. Mark's, about the life that we have together. This sharing will nearly always be a blessing for both you and for the receiver. Has anybody ever had that experience? Maybe one back there. Thank you. A fact from the Episcopal Church, people don't usually come to church because they saw a great sign or heard a radio ad. 85% of newcomers attend because a church member invited them. 85%, right? A sign or an ad may plant a seed, but it's that personal invitation that brings somebody in the door. All right. So when is the last time you ever invited anyone to church? Any answers? Mary?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And she's still here.
And she's still here. All right, so that's so Hannah. Yes.
This morning?
This morning you invited someone to church? Thank you. Thank you. So, all right, let's look at the marching.
Just this week, from FCTC, I got the album.
Thank you. So, out in the community, inviting people that you hardly know to come and attend this wonderful place of St. Mark's. So I was going to say, now let's look at that chart over there, which is, I will say, very neatly written, but in a very small script. I'm not sure who did that. Let's talk about that together. So the first one says, I feel confident talking with my friends about St. Mark's. And most people gave that a 6, meaning that's good. I hope everybody realizes that 6 is the high point of the scale and 1 is the lower, right? Okay. The next one is, I feel confident talking with strangers about St. Mark's. Not as strong on that one, more towards the 4, which is still very good. And then the third one is, I wish that St. Mark's provided more tools for me to share with people in the community. And we have just a random assortment of scores up in there. So I will tell you about, well, throughout the morning today, we'll talk about some tools that we do have, but I think that it's now time to do a little bit of practicing of sharing the good news. Okay, we're going to practice being evangelists. Okay, think about it. What excites you about St. Mark's? About God's work in your life? And then think whether you could say that to someone, anyone, in 60 seconds or less. Okay, so it's the elevator or the escalator speech, if you will. Practice it like that. So we are going to give about 5 minutes to practice with a partner sharing the good news so that you can get it really succinct and say it to anybody within 60 seconds. So 2s or 3s groups, okay? Mark, get set, go.
Wow. It was like a push a button and. What did you say that
All right, how did that go? Everybody ready? Because I am now going to ask for 2 60-minute. 60. Yeah, we're here till Monday. Okay, who has one 60-second invite to come to St. Mark's? Who has one? Who wants to go first?
It's downtown, and the building is very cool.
Come to St. Mark's. It's downtown, and the building is very cool.
It's convenient. Well, yeah. I mean, but there's more than St. Mark's and convenient.
It's convenient. Wow, can you imagine though if you came into St. Mark's because of like that, you really want a tour of the building, don't you? I like that one. That gets your interest. Yes, Tony.
It's an opportunity to engage in mainstream Christianity in a socially progressive context.
Yes. Did everybody hear that? Yeah, that's and Roz has one.
I just thought of it just now.
Yes.
Come to St. Mark's, you might meet a friend you didn't know you need.
Aw, did everybody hear that one? That's good. Thank you. Are there any others, since we were shorter than 60 minutes and 60 seconds? Yes, Amy.
In the inclusiveness of St. Mark's, all are welcome.
Very good. Thank you. So one more word from me at this moment, and then we'll have Paul come up and join us. But on your table are those sticky phone cleaners, which is a tool that you can take with you. It sticks on the back of your phone or your phone case, and it's an evangelism tool because it says St. Mark's on the one side. What a good way to begin a conversation with somebody when they're asking about that. But it's also very useful because you can use it to keep your cell phone clean and your glasses. So there we are. Hope you'll take one and share. All right, Paul.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Paul Settle, and I know most of your faces and some of your names. I've been a member for about 3.5 years, and it's been a good 3.5 years. I really have enjoyed my life here at St. Mark's, and I hope it's an ongoing situation. When Mary first asked me to get involved, I'm a stand-in on the council. Matt Brown and Jeff, what's Jeff's last name? Muller? Jeff accepted a new job in Colorado, and Matt Brown went to university. And so the council needed to replace him. And so I sort of volunteered, got asked to be involved. And I thought, well, for the next 6 months, I can sort of coast through this involvement as part of being chief of the welcoming commission. Well, there's no coasting through when you're in St. Martin. So Mary asked me to get involved with this situation. And one of the words from the hospitality 4 mission words is greet. And I told Mary, we had a meeting earlier this week, and I said, you know, that's a pretty ephemeral kind of word. And there's not a lot of substance to it. And I said, it's also a very personal word. I can greet people, but there's different levels of comfort. So some people are maybe a little more introverted than I am, and they don't really feel very comfortable in greeting people. So I thought I'd better phone up and just look up a few things about greeting. So pardon me while I refer to my but there's a lot of information about greeting. And there's some details here that we can all participate in. So, first of all, we are basically a group of Minnesota Knights. And that comes with some baggage. Minnesota Knights, when I moved here from Atlanta. I was a Midwesterner and I accepted a job in Atlanta and I was down there for about 5 years. And Atlanta is, let me bring over a casserole, a hot dish, and we'll have dinner tonight and you're gonna be a friend for as long as you're down here, kind of a city. It was really a very friendly place. And I was excited when I had a job interview up here that this would be a continuation. And I knew my Midwestern roots. I'm from Iowa originally. And I arrived and I was greeted at workplace and I experimented with different churches. But it was always sort of a superficial kind of a smile, handshake, good to have you here, and goodbye. And nobody said goodbye, but there wasn't a lot of depth to Minnesota Knights. So it's sort of a challenge, I think, for all of us. We all are part of Minnesota, regardless of our background, and we all have that expectation to be nice. And I think part of it is a challenge to make it something more than just a superficial nice. So part of my discussion today as far as greeting is to go beyond maybe what we normally do as far as greeting. One thing that I found, and one of the books that really helped me out in my experimentation and investigation, is this book by Jim Osier, Fiona Hayward. It's called Clip In. And it's really talking about hospitality in congregations, in the church. And I never knew that hospitality had so much depth as what is discussed in this book. They give you all kinds of ideas, so I encourage you, and maybe even the gift shop can get this because it's just an excellent book. One thing in this book that they talk about is sort of the difference between a guest and a visitor. And I hadn't even really thought about it. You see signs outside, this is for visitors, welcome to all visitors. But there's a difference between being a visitor and a guest. And a visitor seems to sort of come in from the outside and they feel welcome, but oftentimes they leave. And so how do we change that visitor to a guest? I think of a guest as somebody's coming over that's been a long-term friend, you're anxious, you prepare, you have lunch plans, they're knocking on the door and you greet them. You really go out and say, welcome. And I don't think we do that as well as maybe we can. So my challenge to everybody and to me is to make everybody a guest here at St. Mark's, not a visitor. And it takes a little modicum of effort, but I think we can all do it. We all have sort of hospitality views. And oftentimes I think we have this idea that there are other people that will do it for us. I went to, at another church, sort of a hospitality idea meeting, and I overheard one usher say to the other usher, I was friendly last week, it's your turn. And I thought, is that really the true message that we want to send, that we're hospitable when we are on assignment, or is it something that we can really make part of our lives? So I'd like us not to be just hospitable because I am chair of the welcoming commission. I'd like it to be more in-depth, more sincere, and I think we can all do that. There are certain groups of people here at St. Mark's that do this as part of their official assignments. Ushers. Ushers are fantastic. They are really the first people that the visitor or guest, hopefully a guest, will see as they come in the front door. And I think we do a really good job. Holly has had orientation meetings, and I think everybody feels pretty good about ushers. I think ushers, being an usher, we all have other responsibilities. So as soon as I get started saying, hey, welcome to St. Mark's, it's a great church, I've been here as a member 3.5 years, oops, somebody wants a bulletin. So I, as an usher, and most of the other ushers that I know, we don't have enough time to really fulfill our duty and be a greeter. So St. Mark's has formed other people, the greeters. And the greeters, they are out there, from my observation in 3.5 years, maybe not as obvious as what they should be, but we have greeters. And they have assignments every Sunday. They wear the yellow ribbons, and they're pretty good. They greet. But I think one other step beyond the official greeters is all of us can be greeters. Really, it's something that I don't think we need to rely on ushers or greeters to do those jobs. I think it's something that we can all do. Now I look out and I see all kinds of faces. I see faces that are a little shyer, a little quieter. I can't go up to anybody and say welcome. I can't even remember my own name half the time, let alone remember somebody else's name. So there are tools that we can use that can help us. First of all, name tags. And I have to admit, I'm the worst when it comes to remembering names. Boz, it took me, I don't know, a month before I remembered your name. Luckily, I can remember Boz Skaggs, and that's how I remember. But I mean, there's plenty of other people. I mean, pity the poor soul who comes up to me and says, my name is John, because John is too common. Yeah, John is way too common. But I always try to remember some particular technique to remember them. I tell you though, for me, the best thing in the world is to have a name tag. And it really helps me out and helps the other person out. Even if the other person, if I can't remember their name, they can look at me and they say, Paul, good. And I'll say, you know, I can't quite remember your name, maybe refresh me again and again and again as time goes on. But usually it helps a lot to have the name tags. When I first got here, and I've been a member for, what, 3.5 years, Tony? Tony is my husband. He introduced me to St. Mark's. And so I really appreciate his involvement in getting me involved with St. Mark's. But when I first came into St. Mark's, I think it was Joyce who said, I need your name. We're going to get you a name tag. And I thought, well, this is kind of brazen. I don't even know if I was a member at that time. I was like, you're going to have a name tag. And Joyce was persistent. I saw her on 2 or 3 different Sundays, and she said, you've not given me your name yet. And so I gave her my name, and sure enough, I got a name tag. I encourage everybody to get a name tag and to wear it. The other thing is, it's somewhere at home, it's in the glove compartment or wherever. If you're a member, be sure and wear it because it really helps. The second thing that I bring up is the Connect card. And we all talk about the Connect card, but sometimes you don't even know where the Connect cards are. Remember, the Connect card is something that's found in every pew. It's right in front of you next to the hymnals and the prayer books and so on. It really is the first step for involvement. So if you have a guest, you greet the guest. Hi, welcome very much, glad that you're here from Chicago. Well, you're moving from Chicago to Minneapolis. Well, that's great. Hopefully you'll find the joy that most of us have here at St. Mark's. If you are thinking about coming to St. Mark's, maybe you'd like to put on this Connect card. This really begins the official step of involvement. These cards are filled out. There's a group of us that respond to each card, hopefully in a timely manner. I've got a couple weeks of names that I've got to send a note to, but we send out a welcome note that says, notice that you were in church on October 14th or October 15th, and they also have a chance to list their organizations or their parts of their personality that they would like to be emphasized here at the church, music, youth, young adults, LGBTQ, so on. And they can tick off those boxes. So I think that sometimes having people really do this, and I know I've been guilty of saying, oh, just find a Connect card and please fill it out, and boom, I'm talking to somebody else. I have taken to the point of even having a few of these cards on my person. I try to recognize new members or new faces each Sunday. And by having these handy, just a few in your pocket, you can really encourage people to at least get on the mailing list. I don't think we want to view each other as stalkers. I don't want to be a stalker if somebody is sort of saying, oh, boy, you're being sort of like Joyce. You're pressing. Don't press people. I tell everybody, I hope that you find yourself here at St. Mark's. It's a wonderful community. It really helped me in my life. And if you're interested, please feel free. And I kind of leave it like that. It's a fine line as far as over-greeting, over-involvement, over-pushing. But I think you can tell by body posture and vocal, verbal response if you're pushing too hard. The next thing after the Connect card is something that I found in this book is called the 5-10 link rule. After working in corporate America for 30 years, it seemed like we always had a logo or a motto du jour. Every week we come out with something new. But I really like this because it has really significance for greeting. 5-10 link. 5 refers to time, 10 refers to space, and link refers to connectivity. So 5, out of the 5-10 link rule, 5 refers to 5 minutes before church, 5 minutes after church, look around. Look around and see if you see a new face. And approach that person. You don't have to be an usher. You don't have to be an official greeter. You are a member of St. Mark's. And what we're really talking about is intentional hospitality. Each one of us should be responsible for meeting and greeting. So take 5 minutes out before church and 5 minutes after. And look around. And this is outside of sharing the peace. I love sharing the peace. One of the reasons why I'm here is I was overwhelmed when we were sharing the peace. But that's only one incident during our service where you're really having a face-to-face, shake the hand, share the peace kind of encounter. And try doing that outside of sharing the peace. Try that 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after. What's the 10 rule? So 5 is time, 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after. 10 is 10 feet. So it's space. When you have a person maybe at the social hour after church, when you're talking with a group of people, we all have friends, we all see them maybe once a week or so, and we all like to talk to our own friends. But if you have somebody come within 10 feet of where you are, invite them in. Don't ignore them. And there's not anything worse for a person coming to church and they're hoping for sort of an uplifting experience, and then they walk out sort of, it was okay, but I didn't really feel connected. So try to see, look out beyond yourself and your friends, and try to see people that you maybe are new to you or new to the church, and try to meet and greet. So that 10 is within 10 feet. Again, you're not dragging somebody across the room and saying, hey, I want to meet you. But if they're passing by, go ahead and talk to them. Make them feel welcome. And the last word is link, L-I-N-K. Once you meet them, once you talk to them, you find out within just a matter of a minute or two what their interests are. Why are you here? Oh, I heard that you had a good gay community here, or I come for the music. I hear the organist is fantastic. Try to link that person with somebody within the community that maybe can share their interests. So really one of the differences between being a visitor and a guest is that connectivity. So the 5-10 link rule, really you're linking them up with a new person or group of people that can maybe bring them in and make them interested in St. Mark's. So I think those tools hopefully can help all of us, and maybe help all of us get over our innate shyness. Shaking hands and greeting people is not everybody's cup of tea, but do what you can do with your own ability and try to make everybody feel welcome. Oh, I got a conclusion. Oh, I love this. I even wrote conclusion. So I said that greeting is really a part of St. Mark's hospitality. It's not other people's responsibility. We all have ushers, greeters, and so on, but we can't rely on those and we don't want to rely on those people. I came here, and once I got here, I was amazed. I couldn't believe the number of people that really shook my hand and said, welcome, we want you to be a part of St. Mark's, love to have you here, and that's what kept me coming back. If we want to see people come back, we have to make it more of a guest rather than a visitor mentality. Thank you for your time.
I'm John Satterberg, and having worked with seniors for the last 16 years, I err on the side of being louder than necessary rather than softer. So that's why I got the mic, and also because I don't have the beautiful, deep voice that Paul has. Just a moment. Okay, imagine coming to St. Mark's for the very first time all by yourself. I think we would admit that this beautiful building with its beautiful people is daunting to anyone in that situation. And so what we want to do is help to orient the newcomer as soon as possible to some of the people, some of the programs, and the place that is St. Mark's. When people fill out a Connect card, as Paul said, they get responses from various people in the church, from the dean's office, from Paul himself, from someone who's responsible for a particular ministry that they may have checked. Also, each week, I think it's John Buchema, sends me a copy of each Connect card. And so when it comes time for the next Newcomers Coffee and Connect, which we have following the service actually today, about a week or so before that, I send an email to each of the people that I have, whose names I have received, inviting them to Coffee and Connect. And Lois is going to tell you about that. We work on that together.
I just wanted to say, when we started coming here almost 10 years ago, we came with our son, and if I recall, there wasn't a special newcomer opportunity. And our first friends were our son's friends, who were wonderful, but after a while, we needed to branch out and meet someone that understood us more than our son's age group. And so what we did was start with volunteering at Sunday night supper. And that's one thing that made us make that leap from just sitting there and knowing a few of his friends to getting to know other people. We started, I think Mary recruited us to start working with newcomers back in 2010. And at first they were quarterly luncheons. And they were going well, and they were getting fairly large. But the planners felt that it was too long a time for someone, if they had just missed a luncheon, to then be coming almost 3 months before they had another opportunity to hear about St. Mark's and meet people in a small setting. So earlier this year, we transitioned to monthly meetings, but they're coffee and fruit, cheese, cracker affairs, not a luncheon. How do they get to us, the newcomers? John already mentioned the cards that John Buchema sends each week. Some people just come because of the announcement that's made the Sunday of the event, and we've had many people that just come because of that, whoever's doing the announcements that Sunday. Some come from reading the website or a personal invitation from another member at church. So what happens on that Sunday? John usually stands outside the door of where we're having the welcome, and right now we're using the newly redone Heritage Room, which has been working out very well. Some of the people are new to the building, so he stands there to help the ones that aren't sure where they're headed to find the right area. They're given a name tag, they're greeted, And I try to talk to them as they come in and tell them what's going to happen in the next hour so they aren't, wondering how long is this going to be? Am I trapped here all afternoon? What's happening? We serve the food right away, and they mix at tables with St. Martins, who are invited each month that come from the different ministries or from the vestry. And we try to mingle so that there's 2 or 3 St. Martins at each table. Usually after a while, 2 or 3 clergy will come when they finish their responsibilities, and they mingle as well. After they finish their eating, they are given an opportunity to go around the room and introduce themselves and briefly say, if they care to, what brought them here. And we found that's the most important part of the whole affair. And the reasons are various, and it helps us learn how to reconnect with them and what their interests are. I think we've never had anyone who doesn't want to stand and say their name and tell their story in just a short time, which is difficult when they're the only stranger to the group. After we've gone around the room, the St. Martins will also introduce themselves, and we tend to be way too chatty, so we've limited the St. Martins to about a minute to tell what their favorite ministry is, so that each one will share something different about what is one of their passions here at church, and it provides another way for the guests to learn who to talk to if they're interested in something. When that's completed, often Dean Paul will then have the last words and make some comments, and then Mary offers a tour of the facility so they can learn about where to put your coat and where are the bathrooms and where's the nursery and all the things that will help them feel comfortable. The guests also receive, when they leave, a gift certificate for the bookstore, a wonderful packet that lists all the ministry opportunities. Sometimes they are given a mug of St. Mark's, so that they're leaving with wonderful treasures. Why is this important, and why do we do it? We realize that for some people that come, they may be brand new to Minneapolis or St. Paul area. Some people may be brand new to an organized church. Some people may have had church experience but may have never come to an Episcopal church. And some people are coming after many years of not attending church. And so it's a re-entry for a lot of people, and for many, a new experience. It's already been discussed how hard it is to come by yourself or even with one person to a new setting where you don't know anyone. And I think our goal has been to learn more about them in a short period of time so that when we see them again, hopefully, we can reconnect and help them, as Paul had mentioned, meet someone who shares one of their interests.
So our hope from the newcomers, Coffee and Connect, is that when they come back the next Sunday, there will be a few faces that they at least recognize, even if they don't know the names. They'll have a little bit of idea about what goes on here and have hopefully begun to think about where they might like to connect. And thirdly, have an idea or feel a little more comfortable in this huge space in terms of what various areas are and how to find their way from one place to the next. So that's kind of the goals of the Coffee and Connect. You can all help in sharing the orientation of newcomers, introducing them to other St. Martins so they widen their sphere of connections here, helping them find their way around, guiding them, taking them with you to the coffee hour after the service, or showing them the bookstore or the new labyrinth, inviting them to come with you to a music series or Sunday night supper or book group or even song. There's all kinds of things, but personal invitations can help newcomers get oriented to life here so that they will soon feel that this is their place as well. I think our time is rushing by, and Mary has something to say about incorporation, and then I'll give a closing.
Thank you all. Good information. So I'll just be brief about the word incorporate. And it truly flows so well out of Orient, because John has just invited that we all have opportunity to invite others into our lives together. Incorporate also we try to do rather deliberately. There's a position that I've made up, if anybody would like to be one, you may. It's called a connector. And so you work with me and we find somebody that's new to St. Mark's and help them find their way along the path, all right? So a connector could, for example, invite a new person to join you. That, I'm going to point to Susan Travis, she's a long-time member. Notice I didn't say that other word. Okay. New and long time. Connect with a new person and invite them to join her at the round table. The round table, which is shown on these screens right now, we offer 3 times a year, and now it is for everyone in the congregation or outside of the congregation. We have about 60 people usually that attend. It's a Wednesday evening meal, simple meal, wonderful social hospitality time, a brief presentation, 10 minutes maybe, and then discussion around the table. 8 people around the table. It's the same 8 people for each of the 3 weeks of the series. And it's really one way to become a part of this community within a smaller group. So like John was saying about the newcomer connect on Sunday mornings, after a roundtable, if you're still newish, you're going to see those people that you've met on a Wednesday evening in church, and it really begins to build more of the connections. And everybody's incorporated into the congregation, more so that way. Again, ever cycling round and around you go. The other tool that's on your table that we have for incorporate is that little pamphlet that's called Pray, Study, Serve. I hope you've been looking at that during the last several weeks. We produced that at the 1st of September. It talks about many of our ministries, not all of them, and ways to be involved at St. Mark's. So that could be for us individually using that, or it could be if you're talking to somebody that has some interest in it, just doesn't know what to do. Find that brochure and go through it together. Think about those opportunities and incorporate into the life of St. Mark's. Any questions about any and all of this? Greg has a question.
Yeah, you used to have, the church used to have a ministry Sunday, where we had tables set up so that we could talk directly with some of the people that were involved in a particular ministry you might be interested in. And I thought that was really effective. In fact, I appreciated that because it gave me doing the gallery to connect with people about the gallery. We have started a team, and I wanted that to be out in front of people knowing that they could participate in. Like in every other ministry, there are teams, and it's always been just one person doing it out. Now we have a team, and I wanted to get that out there too. Are we still doing Ministry Sunday?
Thank you, that's good. We are not doing Ministry Sunday this year. We found through the previous years it wasn't as successful as the time put into it, if that makes sense. But one way we could do that, in particular, for everybody to learn more about the art gallery and how to be involved and so forth, is to talk with me and some others about hosting a Sunday morning. We could help you have a table, especially set up somewhere, blah, blah, blah. So we can, I think that we would be more beneficial if we did fewer ministries on one Sunday morning rather than all 50 on one week. So I'd be happy to talk to you about an individual Sunday, which we could publicize. Okay, yes, Nancy.
Would you accept inviting someone to volunteer with you?
I would love that.
Would that, I mean, if somebody who's not working on a Thursday morning could sit with us and see hungry people come to get their bag lunches.
So you're talking about how to volunteer with the bag lunch ministry?
No, I'm talking about inviting new people to come and just do that with us
Be
sometime.
part of whatever ministry.
Absolutely.
Like we used to invite people to come to Monday night supper and just serve on the line or something.
When we do a lot of the newcomer gatherings, we do try to talk about many of the different opportunities. And like John said earlier too, those newcomer gatherings, we try to have different leaders from within the congregation come and join us on any certain month and share what they are doing at St. Mark's.
Well, I'm not Candy, I'm not in charge, but I'm just one of the
And
volunteers.
that's even better. Thank you. We'll keep working on that too. That's good. Anything else?
It seems to me the link part is probably one of the more important facets of this. And to be a linker, I think you need not to be on LinkedIn. You would need to have intimate knowledge of who's running what. And that is probably a privileged position of only a few. So just how could that be spread out maybe more?
That's a good question, John. Thank you. Yeah, how do you, if you wanted to try to connect or link with somebody, how do you even go about doing that? Well, one thing, I think that Grace Study Serve little booklet has people's names listed in it. So there's that. Now you maybe wouldn't know those people. But yes, but also at least you've met John and Lois and Paul and myself, and you know, there's a number of others of us that if you were trying to introduce somebody on a Sunday morning, you could bring that person to us and we could begin the conversation together. Thank you. John? Yes.
We've talked this morning about people, programs, and place in relation to gather, to inviting, greeting, orienting, and incorporating people into St. Mark's Cathedral. But we'd be missing the point if we were to forget that the people, the programs, and the place are but the mechanism for helping people find what they're really looking for when they come here. A living relationship with God through Christ to be lived out in a community of people. A relationship with God that gives life meaning and purpose. And I've been reminded of this by the way that some of the people answer the question on the Connect card, because in the past, that question was stated, what brought you to St. Mark's today? Someone said, I want a closer relationship with God and Jesus. Another said, my heart, please contact me. Another said, the Holy Spirit led me here. Another said, I'm looking for community and faith. At the heart, that's what all this is about and why we're doing it. Because I think if we were to think about it, we all come here to fill the deepest longings of our hearts. And what a privilege it is for all of us to be able to do even a small thing to help another have those longings met in their life by what we have to offer here at St. Mark's. So, the assignment for today is if you meet a newcomer, tell them about the Newcomers Coffee and Connect after the service and show them where the Heritage Room is. We love to have walk-ins, and that's a very real and tangible thing that will be done today. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this spiritual community that is St. Mark's. We thank you for the privilege of being a part of this community, and we pray that you would help us to fulfill your call in our lives of reaching out to others, that others might also be able to be blessed by what the life of this community has to offer. Draw us, O Lord, into relationship with you that exudes joy and love and care to everyone around us. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you for coming. Any last words?